It is 3:03, and we will call this committee meeting of the Youth Committee for the Local Workforce Area 23 to order. Roll call, please.
Laura Jennings,
Here.
Chuck Jones, Carolyn Jorgensen,
Here.
Casey Burkholder, Courtney Collin,
Here.
Chris Stroll,
Here.
Lori Coleman.
Here. Everyone should have gotten the minutes from the September 19, 2022 meeting. If you could please take a look at those.
Actually,
Is it going to be March?
because we didn't have
Okay.
a formal last two meetings.
So we'll have March 21st, 2002.
And then that's really it because we have just notes.
Okay.
They don't need to be really approved.
That's the March 22nd, 2022 meeting minutes.
I hope I stopped right enough. If I did, I apologize. I might have sent out September stuff. I don't know. Hi, Casey.
Did you get my email?
No.
Okay.
Did you send it the last hour?
Yeah.
Then no.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes? There are none. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Casey? And a second? Lori, a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is election of the chair and vice chair for our youth committee.
You know, at this point, I don't think it really matters a whole heck of a lot. According to the bylaws right now, the only people that can be the chair is you, Lori, or Carolyn. But since Carolyn's stuff isn't in the state yet, it's you or Lori.
Oh.
Lori Foreman.
Oh.
Because according to
Lori.
yeah. So. So I mean, this is the point. If we change the bylaws, if it's what we'll talk about later on, we change the bylaws to where it says that this is not really a standing committee. It says all standing committees has to have a board member as the chairperson. So that's why I'm saying, at this point, right now, it's a standing committee. You and Lori are the only ones that can be chair.
Chair or vice chair or just chair?
It just says chair in the bylaws, doesn't say anything about vice chair. But if we move on and go down here a little further and we do something different like we think we're gonna do. Doesn't really matter.
How about
She don't
if
get
we
that.
table the discussion of the election of chair and vice chair? Would that be sufficient?
Or you could do it, just move it down the agenda and do it after you figure out. Or you know what, no. Let's table it till next meeting.
Because we need
Be-
approval from the
from the
full board
board,
of whatever
yes.
we're gonna do. Okay,
Yes, yes.
so we're gonna table the election of chair and vice chairs, depending on what our committee structure is gonna look like as we move forward. So we will table that to the next meeting. If you would add that to the agenda for our March meeting, Tony?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. March 2023 meeting. Next item on our agenda is report on activities and programs for youth. Lori Jennings.
CEO, they had some WIOA eligibility and IWS training to all WIOA staff on September 20th and 21st of this year. Training agenda included protection of personal identification information, overview of WIOA general eligibility, selective service, basic skills deficiency, determining youth eligibility, and related case studies. We were very fortunate that the state did come in because they have not been out in the field since the beginning of COVID. So we were one of the first areas that they came to because we didn't get to have that training 2-3 years ago. So we were fortunate that Jim Potts came out and did that for us. He always does a great job with our training, and it doesn't matter how many years you've been here, you always learn something. Did you go?
No, I had COVID that week.
Oh, okay. Elaine Nuding, LW23 staff and I, we attended the 2022-2023 performance negotiations meeting on September 27th with DCEO representatives. We did all 15 indicators of performance across WIOA, so it was Title I, adult, anticipated worker, and youth also. We discussed all those and agreed upon the percentages during this meeting. Fall semester at area colleges is quickly coming to a close. Staff, they're busy preparing for spring semester with their customers. We'll be having orientations for the new semester at local offices, probably the first week in January before classes start. We did transfer 37 youth customers to the adult side. This would include to the overspending in our youth money, and hopefully with some of the cuts that we are making across the board, that's going to close the gap on the deficit we are facing with the youth program. We currently have 2 positions open. We still have career planner positions in the Alney and Mattoon office open. It's been extremely hard finding qualified people for those positions. Even getting them to show up for interviews has been a challenge. So we had 0 out of 4 one day, which was very discouraging. So and we're also looking for an accounting specialist in our central office. That's due to the retirement of our current accounting specialist, Terry Meyer. We currently have 120 customers receiving career and or training services in the youth program. We've exited 11 customers, and the total number served to date is 130. Any questions about that?
You said you have 2 career planner positions open. I caught the first one only. What was the second?
Mattoon.
We're not sure.
Who?
Who are you replacing?
Laura.
that to?
McHenry. That's been, well, the Alney one's been open a lot longer than, Alney's really hard finding somebody there. But Mattoon also, it just,
And someone can find all of that on the CEFS website if they're looking for either one of those
Yes.
positions.
yes. And they can apply through the SEF's website if they're interested in those positions.
Do we post those anyplace else?
It's on Indeed, and we did run ads in the Effingham paper, and
LinkedIn.
I don't think she put anything on.
We have.
Do you? What seems
LinkedIn
to,
and Indeed.
what seems to be the issue for us, I mean, we're a social service organization where we're not paying top dollar, right? You know, that seems to be the biggest obstacle for us. A lot of people, they want to work from home because they've gotten accustomed to that. So that's one of the first questions. Can I work from home? And, you know, where they negotiate wages with you, it's like, I can't negotiate wages. I don't set the wages, you know, for this. It's done through the agency. So, or you call and they don't call you back. That happens a lot too. And it never fails. If they just don't show, they don't call, say, you know, I wouldn't mind. Hey, I'm just not interested in the position. I changed my mind. Anything like that. It's crickets. We hear nothing from. So you have that too. You just don't show up. Yeah. Yeah. I do too, but
Don't we all?
it's a different world. It really is.
What is the degree requirements for your career planners, or what kind of work experience they need to have?
An associate's. And, you know, just customer service related, you know, most of the things they do, we can teach them. We can teach them about anything. You just can't, it's kind of a hard thing. You know, either you want to help people, you're truly there for these reasons. Some of them are there for the money, that's it. Or they're just not customer driven. They don't have that background. So, you know, or if they've had any type of case management position, we look at those real closely. Yes.
What is this?
For
They know there's.
gosh, you would ask me.
That's okay. I just had thought of another, share that with them. You know, if they
That
had
would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
If it's on, if the salary. That's.
It is
that's
posted,
helpful.
Brett. I do
Then they
know the,
Yeah.
our accounting specialist, it's 1770. I do know that one right off the top of my head. The other one. It's 1687, 1787.
Are there benefits?
Yeah,
Do you do this
yeah.
public pay package?
We do, you know, and we have a lot of hiring incentives, you know, if you're there with us for 60 days, you get $500. If you're there another 90 days, you get, no, it's 90 days, you get 500, another 90, you get another $500. If you are COVID vaccinated, and you don't have to be vaccinated to work for us, but they do have another $500 for that. We do offer insurance. Not everyone takes it, and then we have vision and dental. Those are standalone costs. So somebody wants to do that. We have a lot of time off, and we have a retirement package. You know, the company pays
Is that all
in.
part of the month?
Yeah. Even that doesn't, you know, it's just.
Well, for the longest time, even Lakeland wasn't, they didn't highlight the benefits. There were so many benefits that I thought needed to be part of their job postings. And they finally started doing that probably within the last year or so. It's like, because I mean, sometimes the benefits can outweigh every year.
I think with some of the younger people coming to the workforce, though, they don't understand the advantage of those benefits. They haven't,
Yeah.
they've been on their parents' healthcare, so they don't really know how great it is that Lakeland offers
They don't
basically
add that
free
in
healthcare.
to that.
Yeah, so they're just looking at that dollar amount and
Yeah.
thinking, that's what I'm here
Exactly.
for. And in social service or education or anything that is service aspect provided that industry, like that dollar is not going to be high enough for them.
I mean, I know when I should stuff on my social media and stuff.
Great, that'd be great.
I'm gonna be a restaurant. So, So.
Perfect, thank you.
And something you might consider too, because our world has changed so much, right, in the last couple of years. But I know for social media, it's critical to anybody's hiring efforts in states. And even doing something like Sarah Bush Lincoln Health Center did, which I think they did so well, is do a video, do something that's gonna grab people and show them what you do and, you know, what it's all about. And, to try to draw people in that. Because most of the younger people, that's how, you know,
That's
the world
what
today
they
is social media.
We've talked like TikTok stuff, and it's like, I'm too old for TikTok. I,
There's a dance floor right there. Let's record a TikTok dance and put the ad in that. There we go.
I can hear you now.
Come in and video you.
This poor lady. Yeah.
Just share my video. Sounds like you got some good contacts.
My kids would cringe.
Same.
For me to move on to the performance.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah, Lori, before I was putting for everybody to get on, you said your folks at night did get a $500 stipend or whatever. Does that come out of agency funds or does it come out of WIOA funds?
Agency.
Because I was just thinking, you have to categorize it right, or it's just not cost, so that's why
It's
if
agency.
it's agency money, then I don't care.
Leave it to the compliance guy.
When you said that, I thought,
Debbie Downer.
well, hey, sorry,
No,
don't want us to get in trouble.
No, it's agency.
Okay, so yeah, the big deal there.
Okay, Lori's gonna go ahead with performance measures or current status.
Debbie got it. Well,
Hey,
now,
it's still
once I
early.
explain-
I know, but Courtney doesn't know. Oh.
Fail, 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 fail.
Overall outcome? Fail.
Yeah, when you look at
It'll
that,
get better.
okay, so when you just look at the top portion, our youth performance measures. So we are either meeting or exceeding 2 of the 5. And usually this time of year, this is typical for us because our program year runs July 1st through June 30th. So with each month, our case managers are doing follow-up with customers. These numbers change drastically from October, November through, like May and June. That's really what we care about is the end of June, June 30th. We want to see these numbers a lot higher. So we are meeting the youth employment rate for Q2. So to exceed that, we need 1 more person in that measure. So 1 more person having wages in Q2 would kick that up to an exceed. The youth employment rate Q4, we're currently failing that. So we only need 2 more to meet that actual measure. And we need 6 to exceed. So as the case manager is doing this, I have no doubt we're going to either meet or exceed that one also. We are exceeding the youth median earnings rate, and that will stay the same. The youth credential attainment rate, we're real close on that. We only need 1 more to meet that measure, and we need 3 to exceed. Normally, the end of the semester, that's when, as people or kids are graduating, we're going to go ahead and put that in the system and we will meet or exceed that measure also. The same with the youth measurable skills gain. Normally, those are all put in at the end of the year. So May, June, that's when all those numbers are going in the system. We need 66 to meet and we need 74 to exceed that measure. So right now, I'll give you here it is. A description of that measure. So in the numerator, those are youth participants who achieved a measurable skills gain in the program year. So this would be somebody getting a certificate, getting their degree, graduating from high school, making any advancement, like on-the-job training, things like that. In the denominator, those are youth participants enrolled in an education or training program leading to a recognized post-secondary credential and employment. So they take the number as the numerator divided by the denominator. That's where we get those numbers at. So right now, our pool is kind of lopsided. The numerator is 18, the denominator is 154. So as more and more get those measurable skills gain, that numerator is going to grow. So, and normally we get those easy also. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm not surprised by this. This is usually about where we're at during this time. I hate to see the fail on it, but we have 1 fail on any of these categories. Our overall outcome is fail. So we have to, we look at these, I look at these weekly, just kind of see where the numbers are at. So we keep a close watch on it though.
That's the first time I've seen this report, so I'm just curious. I don't quite understand exactly. So for you guys, you're in Q4 right now, right?
No,
Okay,
we're only in Q2.
okay. So
Yeah.
when it has, like, for instance, youth employment rate Q2, the top line, so there's opportunities for that number, for that
Yes.
need to change. But then when you're talking about Q4.
A lot, some of these measures, it's not July through June. Some of these numbers are being captured from PY21. So it just depends, and the report doesn't run this out like that, but there's all kinds of different dates where it's capturing this information. So, some of this information might not be from program year 22. like July 1st, 22 through June 30th. Some of them are, like those measurable skills game, yeah, it's gonna be showing July 1st through June 30th of next year.
So for like youth employment rate Q2, that's 2 quarters after they've exited or 2 quarters
2 quarters after.
after exit?
Post-quarter exits, yes.
Okay, and that would be the same for adult employment rate and
Yes.
dislocated worker employment rate. So
Yes.
it's those 2 quarters
Just-
and 4 quarters after exit,
Yes.
have they maintained employment?
Yes, it just depends on their exit dates.
Okay, so it's
Yes.
not our quarter necessarily, it's
Correct.
quarters from their exit
Correct.
date.
I know it's real confusing. We still have case managers. It's
You understand, that's all
Yeah.
it matters.
well, and even, sometimes figuring out how many more we need. A lot of our case managers don't understand, I go through and we need X more to meet this, and then. If it looks like, towards the end of the program year, we go through customer by customer. Is there something that wasn't put in for this person that we could be getting credit for? So we go through those real closely.
I think at this point in the year, in the program year, the thing you want to be looking at is your actual outcomes. And looking at how we can grow those actual outcomes. And Lori's done a really good job of saying like, we need 1 here, 2 here. This is what the numerator, this is what the denominator is. With some new people sitting in the room, does everyone know what the term youth, adult, and dislocated worker mean? So you'll see there's 3 different sections, 1 for youth, 1 for adult, 1 for dislocated worker. Does anyone need a glossary of terms almost of what each one of those terms means? Just don't be shy. You want to know what those terms.
What is the age?
16 to 24. And then our adult program is 18 up. So, we have some youth that qualify also for the adult program. A lot of times kids come in, they don't have that additional barrier needed for the youth program. We run them as an adult. And then the dislocated worker, same thing.
And so I just want to ask for an example, if I can. So for example, we had 19 students that work for us through. And we do a student learner program, and we can talk to you about that. We had 19 that really saved us this last season. And we actually worked with some of their high schools that allowed them to work for us full time, even during the school. So, and these are individuals who make the same amount of money that actually I wish we had adults that are as smart as they can. So would they qualify for this
It would be based on
program?
family income. Yeah, it'd be based on, yeah.
Could be the WIO guidelines as far as what is considered WIO eligible.
And a lot of those in-school kids, unless they're on free lunches or come from low-income family, a lot of those kids aren't eligible.
I would say a lot of our kids are
Are
on those programs though, because we actually work with the administration. Of course, we're pretty far from here, unfortunately, but the Bethany School Administration and even the students actually negotiated with the Sullivan School and Lovington as well. That was what was right for these kids, was to be working full-time versus being in school.
So do they do this as part of like a co-op program? No, they just do.
Student learner program.
Wow. So they're not getting school credit for.
Bethany does, excuse me,
Okay.
so Bethany has credit and stuff for that, yeah, we have to fill out evaluations every quarter. It's
Kind of an individual basis, like.
okay,
You almost have to talk to the kids and find out.
yeah, most
Your
of our
family
kids,
size and.
most of our kids come from like single people. Single homes.
But the opportunity you're giving them
It
is great.
It's a blessing, yes.
For your families also.
There, it's been. Trying to keep our local family.
Yeah.
And then we have tuition reimbursements. Like we're school.
Companies are doing.
It's now.
That's, yeah, a lot of work.
Any other questions for Lori on the performance measures that she shared with us? Seeing none, we'll move on to youth committee reorganization. Tony and I and Jamie have had lots and lots of talks about what youth committee needs to look like. We haven't had a lot of participation in the last couple of years, even prior to COVID. So I'm gonna kind of let Tony take over from here and talk about what's required from the state. And then what our bylaws say, so we can make a recommendation to the board, hopefully, on what we would like to do with our youth committees as we move forward. So, Tony, take the floor.
Okay, I'll try to make this simple.
Stand up
No.
and talk to the whole group, Tony.
The owl's gotta hear you.
I've got to get it right in my head before I can tell you all, so. Like Lori said, in the past couple of years, the youth council, youth committee has just been kind of non-existent, didn't have a whole lot of participation. And nothing was coming out of it, that even when people did show up, nothing was coming out of it, so we decided. And then, well, a couple of years ago, I looked at our bylaws and like, oh no, we are out of compliance with our bylaws because we had so many people on this committee that were not board members. And so to get back into compliance with our bylaws, it says 51% of this membership of this committee has to be board members. So that's one problem. We don't have enough people on our board that have interest in being on the youth committee. So we can't get the outside educators like Courtney or Laura Sullivan or YMCA directors or whatever to deal with youth on a daily basis. We can't get those people on this committee because then we'll be out of compliance. So our conversation has been, and I asked the state for a little guidance too. Youth council, youth committee is not required by law. Under WIA, 10 years ago or whatever, it was required by law. Now it is not. They just suggest that we have a youth committee that takes care of all the youth activities. We're not going to give up the youth activities. Lori's folks are still going to do all that stuff. We still want to meet as a group so we can refer people to each other and do all that stuff too. We've just got to get it to where we are in compliance with our bylaws. We're in compliance with the state regulations. And we get the most out of this committee we can get out. So that being said, this committee is a standing committee according to our bylaws. That's where we get into every standing committee has to have the board member as the chairperson. It has to have 51% of board members as committee members. So we can either say that this committee is no longer a standing committee of the board. It's just more of an ad hoc committee meeting on the side. We'll still report to the board, but we don't have to follow our bylaws. Or we change the bylaws to have wording in there that's straight from the legislation that says, I have a feeling you're staring at it. And you want to, so it eliminates the 51% board member as a committee member, but it still allows us to meet and do all the things. So we'll still have a chairperson, we'll still take minutes, we'll still report to the board every quarter. And so that's kind of the two options. You eliminate it altogether, or you change the bylaws. So you're going to change the bylaws either way. It's really what you guys decide. You want this to be a standing committee of the board, change the bylaws, let the wording say that this is what we're going to do. Or we get it out of the bylaws as a standing committee. And then it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. Really. It's really what you guys want.
So what's the advantage one way or another?
And like I said, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
So when we go to clarify, make sure I understand this right. If we go to ad hoc, we don't necessarily have to meet a quorum. But if we stay a standing committee and just change the bylaws, we would still have to meet
You still
quorum.
have to meet quorum because it's still a standing committee. But your only thing that you're getting rid of that way, if it's a standing committee, is the committee does not have to have 51% participation from a board member.
So if
That's
we
the
go
only thing
ad
you're
hoc,
eliminating there. If you go ad hoc, or I don't even think we can call it ad hoc. Because I think that's in the bylaws too, that standing committee, ad hoc committee, something still has to follow some rules. It's just gonna be LW 23's youth,
we could call it an advisory committee or an
Maybe.
advisory board.
yes. We just gotta get away from the compliance of, you don't wanna be stuck to a rule if you can get away from that rule. That's where we're at. We're making a standing committee. Yes, you still have to have quorum. You still have to have you or somebody, a board member being the committee chair. You're just getting rid of the 51%. That's all that's gonna happen if you leave it a standing committee. If you get rid of it as a standing committee, you can do anything you want. Anybody can be a chair. You're still gonna report the activities to the board. It's just like you all get together at a coffee shop, and start talking. That's what it's gonna amount to.
One other thing that when Tony emailed Laura Dahl, one of the things that she had highlighted about a standing youth committee was if the local workforce board does not designate a standing youth committee, it retains responsibility for all aspects of youth formula programming. Which doesn't mean that much to this committee, but just so that kind of know that.
Yeah, they don't want you to get away from taking the youth activities, which that's why we have a contract with CFS to do those youth activities on behalf of the board. They're still gonna do it. I mean, that's their job. They're still gonna do it. Really, all this amounts to is changing of the bylaws and the requirements that we have to meet to actually meet.
Tony, do we have it anywhere what the like original mission of this youth committee is? And is it a point of we talk about changing the mission, so, or reviewing the mission, or is it just?
Is it in there? I thought Laura put something in that.
We put something out.
The mission's not gonna change.
Well, I asked because since I've been here, it's really seemed like the youth committee is here to help CEFS and get referrals for CEFS for WIOA formula activities. But if we made it if we changed the mission or got different people on board, it could be more of a collective effort of how are we all serving youth and what can we do to help each other?
That is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Not necessarily just helping Title I. We're supposed to be helping all of the youth of our communities. Doesn't say we refer everybody to Title I. Doesn't say return to Title IV. It's just, we have to help the youth of our communities. How do we do that? We do that. That's why we want to get the best people on the committee to have the talks, the conversations that deal with youth every day. We don't want to have. I'm pulling out a name out of the air, Jim Boland. Jim Boland's a welder and, and he doesn't work with youth every day. So what benefit is he giving us? And that's why we want to get more people on this committee that deal with youth, like the Courtneys of the world, that and then get away from that compliance issue with the bylaws and the 51%. That's kind of where we're going. But the mission is not going to change. The mission is we need to help youth. How can we help you? How can Lori help you? How can Courtney help you? How can Caroline help you? How can every other committee or agency in our 13 counties help the youth? And then we won't work together. That's what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And it hasn't been that way for 15 years. It's all Title I, Title I, Title I. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So if we could get more people that have more interactions with youth and a little more
Right.
say, let's all work together. I can do this. Well, I can do this. Well, I can do this.
Mhm.
We help all the dang youth instead of just shovel them towards Senate.
I got you. I see.
There is some information on the email that Laura Dahlman sent back about what a youth committee is to do. I can read through that if you'll.
And it came directly out of the law.
Yeah,
So it's gonna be
very
very
long
good.
line. Under the direction of the local workforce board, a standing youth committee may recommend policy direction to the local workforce board for the design, development, and implementation of programs that benefit all youth. Recommend the design of a comprehensive community workforce development system to ensure a full range of services and opportunities for all youth, including disconnected youth. Recommend ways to leverage resources and coordinate services among schools, public programs, and community-based organizations serving youth. Recommend ways to coordinate youth services and recommend eligible youth service providers. Provide ongoing leadership and support for continuous quality improvement for local youth programs. Assist with planning, operation, and other issues related to the provision of services to youth. And if so delegated by the local workforce board after consultation with the CEO, oversee eligible youth providers as well as other youth program oversight responsibilities. Again, what that is saying to me is we need people who are interacting with youth on a regular basis in different sectors that we can help them. We can help provide services and we can help refer them to the services that we have. Roundabout.
So that, well, provided, however, you don't have to have. It's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement anymore.
Could be under the new law.
Well, that's.
I mean,
what
when
I'm
it's
trying to get-
reauthorized, it could be.
Yeah, trying to get that out of law too. It's kind of got.
She probably doesn't.
She probably-
No, I don't think we're gonna hear anything more about that until next fall at the earliest.
And you know what, if it's a requirement when the new law gets approved, we do this all over again. Like I said, the services aren't going away. It's just how we meet, really. And the requirements that we were not compliant with for years and years and years. Just trying to get away from it.
Marie Jennings, I'm gonna call you out just because you have seen youth through many different years, many different kinds of funding cycles. You've seen youth as they have changed and we've referred them in different ways. Tell me what you think.
I got babies at home. What'd you just say? Could you repeat that?
Yeah.
No, I really don't care one way or the other how this is set up. I really don't. I think it's just finding the right people to be on the committee or whatever we want to call this. Because I think there's kids out there, school systems or different social service organizations. There's lots of kids that we're not reaching. It's finding those people to be on this committee that we can help. It's all working together. It just seems like over the past several years, kind of like what you said, we were having a meeting to have a meeting. Nothing really, we had some really good ideas come out of a lot of these meetings. But, one or two meetings and then it just kind of fizzled. Nothing ever became of it. So in my mind, it has to be more of a working committee. That's what I would like to see.
So Chris, you've been on the board, you've been around Lakeland for a long time. What's your suggestion? I mean, you've been around this board for a long time, about as long as I have, so what do you suggest as far as the only thing we're eliminating, I think if we leave it a standing committee, is a 51% committee membership. It's the only thing we're eliminating. Right? Because I changed the bylaws. Did I show you guys that? I don't know if I did.
I don't know if I have the change one.
But that's the only thing you're eliminating. So you're still gonna be bound to a quorum. So you're gonna have to find the right people. Because like I said, we didn't have a quorum the last two meetings. So you're gonna have to find the right people, or it's just all for naught. You know what I mean? You're not gonna have, you can't get the people here that don't want to be here. And we're spitting in the wind. It doesn't happen.
So did you go to Chris and say, as a board member, would you like to be on the youth committee, or are these appointed
For
these, the youth committee? Did you go to Chris and, because with her background
Yeah,
and everything, yeah, you're the perfect
I don't
person to have.
I think when we do board orientations for the new board members, I think we did with Lori and with Carolyn too. Hey, we suggest you be on a committee if you want to be or whatever, but that's for board members. So we're not getting, I mean, how did you become a member? Just because somebody left, right? And you took their spot.
I'm
So.
supposed to be here.
She said, what is this? I'm like, I'm not gonna explain it because it's changing anyway. Just come on. We'll figure it out.
Okay, Laura Sullivan, right? Okay. So I mean, you're gonna have to do some recruitment. It's not gonna be board members at this point, you know what I mean? It's gonna be different agencies.
Or you have to have people that are invested and that want to be here or anything.
That's what, we were having meetings just to say we had a meeting. That was all of us coming out. Had some great ideas. As soon as everybody walked out the door, where was I just at? Nothing happened.
Well, because a lot of the people that had these great ideas, they weren't necessarily on the ground doing that
Yeah,
work. They,
Their lives.
we can have good ideas and talk about them, but we can't make the things happen because we're not out there with those students, with those young adults. So if we get individuals on the team that not only have the great ideas, but also have the access to that population, then we can see action come out from those wonderful ideas. And as long as we have this structure of it has to be board members and it's whoever you can get to show up because you got to make quorum and maybe they're not invested and maybe they're not even directly linked. Like it's really constraining us and making it harder to serve the youth and get out there and do the work. Like you said, we need more of a working committee, a task-oriented committee as opposed to a standing, let's do the minutes and let's meet quorum and let's all approve it and then go on to the next thing.
What are some of the ideas that have been thrown out? Like, what ideas have you guys seen for?
Well, we've had, kind of like with probation offices, we had roundtables. Was this last year or was it 2 years ago?
Well, it's probably been a year and a half ago.
Has it? That was one of the real good ideas and, you know, we had, gosh, out of how many probation offices, we just had a handful show up. You know, it's even getting different people engaged that, you know, it's like, this would be perfect, you know? And we had 2 sessions thinking, okay, the ones that maybe didn't come to the first one, they'll come to that second one. Chris and Tiffany and I sat on the Zoom meeting, like, how long are we gonna
Still
give
waiting.
them? Yeah, nobody, I mean, I think we had maybe 5 or 6 the first round, which good, you know, but, you know, I want all 13 counties showing up and, you know, some never heard back from, but you know, when you talk to them on the telephone, it's like, this is what we're doing, this, you know, informational, you know, how can we help you to better serve the youth in your community? You know, and it was like, yeah. You know, and we didn't really get any referrals out of it. But it's just keeping our name, you know, and, you know, if we get one youth, that's okay.
Michigan went a part of that by chance, because I wouldn't think.
I don't remember.
He went
I
not
don't so.
Holmes County. It was, oh, name somebody else. It wasn't Mitch.
I still have the list of everybody that,
Because we had like Jasper County, so
See,
like 3 people, wasn't it?
See,
It said,
they had 2 or 3.
Yeah.
One of them just used.
Maria
Yeah.
Moran was Maria Moran went to work for DCFS. But it was someone that she had sent.
I'll say, we need.
I think some of these probation, you know, officers, you know, they're banging their head, you know, it's like, the
Oh, I
kids
know.
aren't showing up. Yeah, well, we had one probation officer, she called me and she's like, hey, she said, I just wanted to make sure so-and-so showed up for their appointment, or they're gonna show up for their appointment tonight. And I said, well, what time's their appointment? 6:30. And I thought, no, that's kind of, I mean, our office, our hours 8:30 to 4:30. But sometimes, you know, they change their work hours, you know, in order to meet with kids, you know. So I called the case manager, I said, hey, I said, have you got an appointment with so-and-so? And she's like, I've called him 3 or 4 times. He has never responded. I said, well, I said, supposedly you've got an appointment with him tonight at 6:30. You know, so they're gonna tell, you know, their probation officers, you know, anything to Yeah, it's following through, you know, and I think they have just our job as we do, you know, finding the kids getting to show up to follow through. And a lot of times, you know, when somebody tells them you need to do this, they're, you know, they have to buy into it. They have to be interested and they want to do it. Yes.
I can share with you certainly, which is very different from what you guys have been doing. So we actually have put together a presentation. We've met with the manufacturing groups and presented there. We actually go into the schools. So, and we meet with the students.
We did that.
Yeah.
And
so
then, you know what, and that's where we
we
have
do
our
that
best
every
part.
year. Now, sometimes you've got school administration who are credible, on bought in, and a lot of times it's awesome. And of course, we have small communities. These administrators know these students as well as their parents. And they're
so
the
bad.
ones, yeah, and it's incredible. And some of the administration is removed, so you've got to get to the school administration too. And help them to understand the value added when you're doing that. So we on the ground meet with every spring as kids are getting ready to graduate from school and stuff. We talk about our summer program, but we also have a work program, and we're flexible with their football schedules and with whatever else they have going on to bring them in, and we have mentors for them. And but when we go in and tell these kids, you're gonna make $16.75 an hour plus an additional $1 per hour.
Right.
You're right, in order to, and then we do a whole thing at the plant, you know, we're a manufacturing plant, so we bring in their parents so they can see it's a safe work environment, and we bring Subway in and stuff, and then we take them on a tour, so we try to get the parents engaged, school administration engaged, and kids engaged. And we have had, and then word of mouth, we actually had to, unfortunately, because our business in the last 2 months, we've never had to do this. We had to stop the student learner program unless they can work full time, which is what called the Bethany administrator said they could work full time, keep them. For that moment. And then one of the students went to the Sullivan teacher. And again, most of these kids are not from, they're kids that may want to go get an associate's degree, they want to take welding, they want to do, right? They're not kids that are probably going to go. But we have had great success with it over the last several years, and probably had more students this last summer than we ever, because we usually limit it, because you do have to have a mentorship and everything else with that. But I think it's being on the ground and getting into the schools, and I mean, I appreciate trying to do it with, you know, certainly correctional officers, probation officers, all that stuff, but we've been working through the schools, and that has been how we have been, what I feel is successful.
A lot of, like our smaller school districts, they will allow us to go in, you
Right.
know, like talk to all the juniors, all the seniors, and
Yeah.
we've done that. A lot of the bigger schools, it's just, you know, some of them, they just.
Well, and
want
you're
us-
coming as an employer.
Right,
That's
that makes
probably
it
a whole
yeah.
different ballgame,
Yeah.
and it's how do we've actually gone into, because Thyssen Prep out of Danville is where we got the program for, because they presented one time at the manufacturing, you know, meeting, and we started from there and created our own program from that. So I think if we could get more manufacturers, or more, and not just manufacturers, more companies engaged in this youth program. I said, so approaching it, you know, you're coming from a different angle, than probably we're coming. Like, listen, and we've got tuition reimbursement, we want you to use mentorship programs. We do internships with engineering.
So, to work and maybe hear their jobs.
Well, I think what Lori Foreman has shared the most is, you know, the best practice that you're using that is working within your organization.
Right.
How do we get other people to see what best practices are not only being used in your sector, but being used in other sectors, or being used in social service, so that others can take that model and maybe make it into what fits into their mold?
Exactly.
Because it would
Like,
look
we did
different
not
if
do
it
with Thyssen Prep, they had a 2-year program with us, they got the same kids in the 2. That did not work for us, and we created our own model, but the idea came from that, we didn't.
I said.
Also-
That's been in like 2000.
Oh,
16 or 17 years ago. Yeah, a while ago.
Yeah.
A minute ago,
But
yes.
But however, you know, because you've also got these kids that don't think they have to work. Just like you've got adults that don't think they have. I mean, it's a culturally we've created. So for employers that need people, this was an avenue for us. This summer, we were hurting and hiring. We needed people. So to get 19 students to come in and they work harder and they're held accountable with the same expectations. We coach them. I mean, everything is done in the same. We treat them just like if we would any other employee.
Also,
except
a
sometimes we
key-
bring school administration.
A key focus of the WIOA Youth Services is to focus on youth out of school as well. In fact, we have ratios where typically we need to serve 75% of the youth that we serve have to be out of school. And it doesn't mean dropped out. They could just have graduated and not re-enrolled in something for the last 6 months. So youth in school, that's easy peasy. That's sitting ducks. We get in there to those schools and we can get them into the workforce. But a lot of the help that we need is those youth out of school who are not working and they're not in school and they're just floating off figuring things out. And I think that's where we really need to get some more representation on this committee is people who have access to that population of young adults who are not in school and are not working and they're trying to figure stuff out and they don't even know where to start. So yes, that is an awesome program and that is wonderful. And we should definitely look into getting more partners to get in-school youth involved, but we need to think outside of the box a bit for approaching and recruiting those youth out of school.
They're the hardest ones to find.
They
Well,
are.
that's why, that's why we went to probation, because we were looking for the hours, thinking. they have to have some.
Youth out of school is always hard to find, and
Yeah, the
Really?
in-school,
it's usually 75-25, and they've taken it down to 50-50 each year. if I
and
remember
we're,
correctly.
and we're so far off the charts this year because we have, yeah, the percentages are really heavy on this.
Where are these kids hanging out?
You know why?
All right, they still-
We're trying to figure that out.
Over to McDonald's, I'm not kidding, like, if you could get some of these franchise businesses, just seriously, like, you know, connections. Advancement, opportunities, and, I mean, I know. I'm in. That's. You know, for our. kind of the. Membership for that.
Yes, I got wording directly out of the law that I didn't know existed, but Laura sent it to me. So yes, we can make this a standing committee. And you're still gonna abide by all the bylaws except for that 51%. Committee member has to be a board member. That's the only one that's limited. Everything else still stands. You still have to have a board member as chair. You still have to have quorum. You still have to meet quarterly. Still have to have a vice chair and chair. Everything else in the bylaw is submitted except the only thing is get rid of that 51%. And that's what we want to do. Like I said, we don't have 51% board members that are going to be any relevance to this committee. So we want to get other people on it.
We've had some really, really great discussion. We do have another week at 4 o'clock, so I'm gonna kind of ask, what is the general consensus? Do we take a recommendation to the board to keep this as a standing committee and alter the bylaws, or do we look at more of a youth advisory committee? And I think the same people could be on the committees. It would just be who's chairing that committee and how we're reporting out to the board.
Either way, you're going to report activities to the board.
Right.
Either that comes through Lori's presentation to the board, or Chris is yours, or Tiffany, or whoever's going to be the chair. I know it's crickets now. I mean, I think my suggestion, leave it the way it is, change the bylaws. That's my suggestion. But then again, you're going to be held to a quorum, and if we have quorum trouble down the road, we might have to revisit the idea. It's really up to you guys. It doesn't, there's no specific number now. You still have to have 51% of the committee to have a quorum. So that's what I'm getting at. I mean, if any action has to be taken, you have to have a quorum. Can't have a quorum, you can't really do anything. So
But this way, do we have to be careful how many extra people we bring into the committee?
do.
Because that throws off.
usually, however many people you have, you still have to have 51% for a quorum. But if you have 20
you don't have
people
to
that
do
are
that.
actually engaged in it, then you're gonna get a quorum almost every time.
Okay,
It's just, you gotta find the people that are gonna be engaged in the youth activities in the communities, and instead of having board members, 'cause we just like I said, we still have the board members
Engaged with you.
engaged. with
It's
you.
not that
So-
they're not interested in helping youth. I think they're just not engaged in day-to-day activities with youth. And what we need are employers, social service and other agencies, education that are involved with youth on a day-to-day basis. So that we can make good decisions and make sure that we're providing accurate and resourceful services. And not just providing a service because of what we think they need. When it's someone that's day to day with them, they know what's going on. They have a finger on the pulse of what's going on with teenagers. Sort of. As much as you can have a finger on the pulse of what's going on.
I'd like to see some youth on the committee,
You
you know.
yeah,
some
you can
young-
And that is,
some Young adults.
you have, that's in the law too, that parents of youth, past youth participants. Everyone, like that is allowed in law, but according to our bylaws right now, you put those people on, you just gotta put more board members on.
Right.
It does say the committee may also include parents, participants, and youth.
It's almost like the opportunity would be to do like focus groups and somehow something. Young people out and find out. And it's also, we're so spread out, like I'm clear.
Oh.
Like when I come here, I'm just being honest, it feels like it's about Effingham, this area, maybe because I'm so far. From it, so how do we?
And a lot of
bring
our
it together?
counties, I'm sure feel the same way.
Yeah.
Where
Those outlying counties, you're right, I mean,
Yeah.
you're over in what, Moultrie County. Then you got Edgar County, and you look at our participant numbers on the reports that you guys get. Those are the counties that are the least served, or the least,
those outlying.
the outlying counties. Right,
Well, because a lot of those outlying counties, we don't
You don't have
have
offices.
offices in those. Which makes a big difference.
so maybe this, I mean, this is, like I said, this is only for the year, but. I know we gotta move on, and I'm the one telling them to move on, I'm talking. But if we could get different people to these committee, this committee. The other committee, the planning and oversight committee, that's the standing committee, you have to have board members, that's the one that's the meat. Potatoes of the board, so we can't really do anything there. This committee, I'm thinking we just. But I'm beating a dead horse, it's the same thing.
Certainly.
Not on here, not on this one, no. I mean, even on our board, we have one board member and
This one of that Edgar County.
who is, I know Jeff is the CEO. Oh,
it
it's
Mandy?
Mandy.
Yeah,
Mandy Martin.
Maybe from.
from
Okay.
JL.
Say, we've got a guidance counselor that.
See, that's perfect. That's the people we need right there. I mean,
Okay, so back to the question, do we want a standing committee and we look at revamping the bylaws? Sure. Or do we want a youth advisory committee meeting? I say meeting, a youth advisory committee. Youth advisory committee, that's one. I was. He looks like I'm gonna take a pass.
I got nothing for you.
So we might-
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, but I really don't have it. So,
Me too, but I think it's more about the people that are in the committee than what we're calling.
we just gotta, that's part of our job is to make sure that we're putting it correctly in our bylaws and that we're representing what we want to do. Whatever we call this, I think it will look the same.
they're just not held with as many rules.
those of you who are joining online, we are still finishing up the youth committee, so bear with us just a moment for consortium.
Casey, what are your thoughts?
I don't remember which, but whichever one of them is like the forum and.
So more like the focus group.
Sister focus group, yeah.
This is my first meeting, so.
And you know what, she's gonna be like the vice chair. If we made it.
So. If you have a question, so like if you.
What we would probably do is our next meeting, we'd bring back a core group of people. And we would talk about how are we going to invite people? What are we gonna do? When are we gonna hold the meeting? We don't have to hold it at this time like we're doing right now. Prior to consortium and the full board meeting, we could do something completely different and meet on off months. Every other month, every 6 weeks, every 2 weeks, whatever that committee wanted to come together and do, maybe it's we meet every 6 months. I think you have a lot more freedom to how you would run your meeting and when you would meet.
Or do you have a way, either way? Could the full board, if they say it's one advisory committee, could they say what the goals are of this advisory committee and you know, how often? Or is that making it basically? Kind of the same thing? You know what I'm getting at, I guess?
I think our people that know our youth are the ones who should help us, and we come together as a collaboration to figure out what's our mission for this committee. And then how often do we feel like we need to be?
What, yeah, what goals and what strategies then lead to that mission, support the mission, yeah.
What are our short-term goals, what are our long-term goals? And I think that would be best for us to decide as a group. Because we're the ones touching the youth.
I guess I would just. Something that you get rid of the committee and they call it a working. People that are on. Doesn't really do anything, you know what I mean, is there something that the board will say, oh, we're changing this now, it's going to be a working committee and we want them to meet, and I'm not saying they're making that decision, I'm saying you guys or whoever propose, this is what we like to say, that how often we're going to probably the same thing that's already laid out.
I feel
Or
like I
just
don't
a-
have Robert Rules of Orders with me, but I feel like if you make it like more of a task force, no, the board doesn't tell you what that task force needs to do or needs to meet. But you are still held accountable to the board through reporting to the board and everything. So it does still lend, it's still legitimate. It's just a little bit more, what do you think is best? It is, yeah.
And it spells out in the law, if you want to read the law, it's a lot of good reading. It spells out in the law exactly what youth activities are allowable under the law. So we're still talking about WIOA as an umbrella, that's Title 1 through 7, whatever, 8 or 9, whatever. So we're still gonna do the same thing. It's just how you solve it.
Are we comfortable making a decision today? Anyone who is not comfortable making a decision today, will you raise your hand?
Not making this.
I think there's key stakeholders in one that's been the driving force for quite some time. And probably decision makers.
Yeah, I mean,
I
like,
understand.
we all know what you think. Everybody knows what everybody has said already, so I mean, it's time to kind of make a decision, how we want it to look on paper. The way it's gonna be, the way the services are gonna be given to the youth, and all, none of that's gonna change.
None of that's gonna change.
Yeah,
It's just what it's gonna be on paper.
yeah, it's really all. So what I've heard, Tristan, not Senator Thunder, what I've heard is you want to take that as a standing committee, take it out of the bylaws. It's just gonna be an advisory, whatever you want to call it. It's just gonna be out of the bylaws, so we're not held to the rules of Robert's Rules of Order and our bylaws. Is that what?
Is everyone good with that? Okay, so when I report out to the board this evening, I will just report out that we have asked that our standing committee be removed. And that we would now be not even a subcommittee, an advisory committee that is specific to youth. And that would be inviting additional people that serve youth in our 13 county area. And that we'll be inviting them, and we will come back with some additional information at the next meeting.
Now, are you going to ask for approval of that, or since it has to go before planning and oversight in March, that's when it will formally get approved?
That's when the bylaws will get approved.
Yes.
Planning and Oversight Committee is not gonna contradict what this committee wants, you know what I mean? They're not gonna say, no, we want you to be a standing committee. They can only approve the bylaws and the changes in the wording of the bylaws. That's not gonna come until next meeting.
That won't come till March. Is everyone good with that? Okay, so we're gonna go back and revisit the election of chair and vice chair. So as our committee, even though we're an advisory committee, do we still have a chair and a vice chair?
Need some sort of leadership.
I
would
would
think.
suggest yes.
So I would take any suggestions on vice chair first.
That's hard to do with some people who are so.
That's what's happening. We went through it.
Casey,
Rob?
you've been here like 3 times.
Is this something that we should defer until March, or is this something that does need to be done right now?
Like, we're not held with anything at this point, you know what I mean? So,
I would kind of like to see us as a group meet kind of in between.
We could do that.
Yeah,
We can
and
do
then
January
at the
timeframe.
March meeting, then do the vice and the chair at that point.
So let's get, we'll get a meeting on the calendar for, I'm gonna say, late January.
Or we could, yeah, we can do it at SAPS.
Late January meeting, to work out some of the details. Would that be best?
That's one thing, you know,
Do we need a vote for the reorganization then, says action required?
you might as well so we can get it in the minutes.
I would entertain any motion on the youth committee reorganization that we've already discussed this afternoon. Casey is gonna motion that we move from a standing committee of LWA 23 youth committee to a focus, an advisory committee specifically for youth. That was motioned by Casey, a second. Second. Lori Foreman, second. Yeah, roll call vote for that. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're tabling our discussion for the chair and vice chair until our next meeting in late January. Is there any other business on the table that anyone would like to discuss? Any public comment? Seeing none. Our next meeting is March. Debbie, help me, I didn't write it down.
March 20th.
March 20th, 2023. We'll be meeting at the SEP's office then. They should have all of their coffee bar and set up for us. So we'll be all ready to go for the evening for a coffee bar. So we'll see everyone at 3 p.m. at CFS office. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Casey, a second? Courtney, a second? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 4:13. It will start at 4:20 on our next meeting. Give everybody a.
Yes.
4:20 for the consortium meeting.
I will continue to record, so just be mindful of that.
Yes.
So be mindful of what you say. Don't pick your nose because the owl will zoom in on it.
See, they've got the nice-
Form?
Two people who sit in-
Oh, is Chris leading this one too?
Chris is, it's still Chris show tonight.
Mhm.
Hopefully. You bring your blanket.
Is she going to the restroom now? Okay.
No. What the hell is that?
We'll go ahead and call the local workforce area 23 quarterly consortium meeting to together. What my words are leaving me right now. Roll call, please.
Casey Burgholzer. Kevin Busher.
Lori Jennings for Kevin Busher.
No, you're on here by yourself, or you're Title I, Kevin is C3G. You can say yes for Kevin too, if you want. Carolyn Jorgensen. Nancy Purdy. Gerald Billieu. Here. Laura Jennings.
Here.
Rob Jackman. Here. Chris Stroll.
Here.
Connie Walder.
Next item on the agenda is review and approval of the September 19th, 2022 minutes. Please take a look at those and see if you have any additions or corrections to the minutes. There are no additions or corrections. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So
Thank you, Lori. A second?
Gerald. Second.
Thank you, Gerald. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is conflict of interest disclosure. Does anyone have a conflict of interest for anything we're going to be discussing this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to business service update. Jamie, could you provide us an update?
Yes. Okay, the LWIB 23 business service team met back in September on the 21st, right after our last quarterly meeting. At that time, we just discussed roundtable planning. We were working on the plan for the healthcare and childcare roundtable discussion, and partners who were present gave updates. Then we met again on October 19th. There we had a talent pipeline management presentation from Kim Kuchenbrod, where she went over what talent pipeline management is and how it can be implemented in our area. It is basically taking the concept of supply chain management and applying it to the workforce. So it's all a lot of stuff that we are doing currently, but it is being just taking a more intentional and collaborative approach, working across workforce, education, and industry as well. And we also continue to do some final updates and planning for the roundtable event. Then November 16th, our meeting was the healthcare and childcare roundtable event. I will go over a few quick notes from that because it was a very interesting meeting. So the mission of the business service team roundtable is to really just give a safe space for industry to talk about pain points, challenges they're facing, what they've tried that's working to help whatever pain points there are, what they've tried that's not working. And it's really interesting. It's because the conversation is very much led by industry. So we're not asking very specific questions or drawing out information. They are just opening their hearts to us. So it's really cool. This one was special because we involved healthcare and childcare to see what kind of things they have in common and to kind of talk about collaboration in the future of how they may be able to work together to alleviate the childcare crisis and getting people to work and having childcare during shifts that typically there's not enough childcare for. So we heard a lot about, there's so many positions that healthcare is having difficulty filling, and then childcare, they said every single one of our positions were having trouble filling. They talked a lot about candidate search and what's been hard for even just finding candidates for positions and the competition involved and what kind of skills that are lacking. And of course, as always, soft skills or employability skills comes to light a lot. There was a lot of discussion on how the talent pipeline has dwindled for both of those industries. Retention and morale. One thing that was interesting to me is they were quite frank in saying that people are terrified of healthcare, and I'm not too surprised, but it was very interesting for them to say that out loud and to kind of go into some of the detail why they think that was. We talked about some opportunities and resources that all the employers seem to be pretty interested in, like apprenticeships or doing some on-the-job training, anything to create and sustain a talent pipeline. And I thought it was interesting because I've heard some talks about healthcare and childcare in other regions of the state. In our region, yes, they want some immediate help right now in finding people this moment, filling roles right now, but they are very cognizant and supportive of the fact that we need to be looking 5-10 years in the future and fostering a talent pipeline with students who are in elementary school and middle school right now, so that they are primed to, as soon as they graduate from high school and get the training that they need, they can get into the workforce and be highly skilled. That was encouraging and awesome to hear. So there will be additional collaboration between healthcare and childcare in the near future. Right now, we are kind of taking a little bit of a TPM approach casually right now. So we are in some data collection stages, getting some more information about the positions that are hardest to fill and what kind of education, training, and skills they need as far as candidates go. And I think we'll have some good collaboration coming out in the next few months. So it's really interesting. We had attendees from HSHS St. Anthony's. We had attendees from Treehouse 2, Sarah Bush Lincoln, Willowbrook Management, CCR&R, which is Child Care Resource and Referral, and Carl as well. So a very interesting group, and it was a lot of fun. And we will be discussing next steps and additional roundtables to have with that group. Thank you. Any questions?
Did they have any on the finding employees, getting candidates, did they have any solutions to the problem, or just kind of venting their frustration?
There was they've tried a lot of things that have not necessarily worked. They've talked about like having bonuses, and that has not worked like they thought it would. They have referral programs. So current RNs, if they referred someone and they got a job, they would get a bonus. Honestly, they're not even paying out those. They're just running that program to be competitive with other hospitals that are doing the same thing, but no one's taking advantage of it. So I thought that was super interesting. They also talked about travel nurses and how travel nurses aren't taking jobs away from, your more traditional standard nurse. But it is very much glorified, and it's actually a really hard position. And the more travel nurses you have on staff, declines the continuity of care, which I did not realize, but that was emphasized a lot. So yeah, and competition, they're really just making the rounds. Competitors are buying out contracts. So a nurse signs on a contract with HSHS, I'll stay on for 6 months, but then they get a better offer from Carl, and Carl buy it out. That's just for example. No one actually said that's how it was working, but the competition are buying out contracts. So it's a dog eat dog world right now, I think. But no, not a whole lot of what was working.
sat in on the round table and it was very informative. I felt like just listening to them talk, we heard a lot more from healthcare than we heard from childcare, but just even some of the different ideas that they do. Very interesting. I will share one tidbit that came a little bit off of that discussion that has moved forward. Lakeland College has their first childcare apprentice. Typically, you see apprenticeships as being something that is union-based, or that is something that is more manufacturing area. But we have signed on with Montessori Kids Universe, and we have our first childhood apprentice. So that person will be going to school for a portion of the day, working at the Montessori Kids School for a portion of the day. The Montessori Kids School has some things as being the apprenticeship location that they have to do that is part of their contract, so.
And we've seen the same thing in healthcare. They're very interested in Department of Labor registered apprenticeships. So I think Nate will talk about it in the board meeting during the apprenticeship navigator grant update, but not only early childhood education, but also in healthcare as well.
Did you say that as a first child care apprenticeship or?
Early childhood education would be their major at Lakeland College, but then they would be working at Montessori Kids Universe.
Montessori Kids Universe?
Mhm.
Is that on the paper?
No, it's here in Effingham. It's in the old Agricel building. So if you're familiar with where Lakeland College is at the Pussy Center, across the street, there is a social security office and treehouse too. Then there is a pond, and on the other side, that was McLeod building 30 years ago. Then it was Agricel for quite a few years, but the Montessori Kids Universe is there.
Adam Flack was in attendance and he is in the chat right now. They also mentioned that travel nurses were very expensive too. That they did say that. Thank you, Adam.
Any additional questions for Jamie on the business service team update? Tony stepped out for just a moment, so I'm gonna skip over to Lori and ask for one-stop operator report.
The one-stop operator, we met last Thursday, Clutie Center. We do have a resource room specialist that started in September. The one-stop center is open for business. IDES is still by appointment only, and CEFS, we do take walk-ins. We have been tracking the number of customers coming into the center since this would be September 19th. And each month, we can just see the numbers increasing for the center. September, we had CFS, we had 15, IDS had 33. October, CFS had 65, and IDS had 85. November, CFS had 54, and IDS had 159. And we thought probably that big number on the IDES side was due to a lot of the seasonal layoffs that are happening, but with each month, we just see more, and I think, and as people see the center being open, we're gonna have more traffic coming in, so, which is good. We also are gonna get kind of a facelift at the One Stop Center. They are gonna be doing replacement of the flooring and painting, and that will be taken in February, correct? Okay. Update, we did an update on the CFS office construction. We are pretty much putting on a few finishing touches in our office, and we will be probably meeting there for all the committee meetings and board meeting next March. So everything looks a lot different, looks a lot better, and we got rid of all the nasty carpet, so it looks good in there. Also, David Garvey from the Center for Workforce Development at SIUC, he reached out to me, and they do have some outreach materials that they were just kind of doing an inquiry, what kind of things we want. And they have all kinds of things available, like mouse pads, folders, pens, tote bags, flash drives, notebooks. And I kind of let them know we'll take as many as we can get. This has a lot of the materials, has the Illinois WorkNet label on there, we can use these for job fairs, or as customers are coming into the center, we can give them little takeaways, take with them. So they will be looking at estimates, pricing, and let us know what's available and we can get those. We also discussed the MOU. And we had some updates as far as adult education. They updated on ESL. And we talked about a couple of the rapid responses also at within the 13 county area, and I'll share those a little bit more in the board meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions from Lori on the one-stop operator report? Tony, we're gonna jump back to you for one-stop reopening. You ditched us for a minute.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I believe that, I don't know how. I don't have anything, I'm not quite sure whether that was on the agenda, but apparently Lori just said the one-stop open. Casey's folks still taking appointments only, but ours is walk-in, so.
Just so you're thunder.
No, not really, I'm not sure.
Okay, next item on our agenda is partner reports. Are there any partners that would like to have some time to talk about what they're doing with any of their programs? Title II Adult Education has orientations coming up in January, so that will be for Lakeland College Title II. There'll be GED and ESL orientations coming up in different locations, 4 locations for ESL and 9 locations for GED throughout the Lakeland College District. Our Lakeland College Adult Education Program is starting a new ICAPS program, which is contextualized learning. We're going to be doing an automotive program at our extension center in Marshall, which is in Clark County. So one of the counties that we serve through our local workforce area. In addition to our basic welding certificate, which is also an ICAPS program, and our basic nurse assisting, which is also ICAPS. Gerald, you're looking at me like, what is an ICAPS program? Is that what you were going to ask?
That was when the questions came.
You were giving it to me already.
Illinois, you got that right.
It's integrated educational training.
You didn't even
So
get that
is-
right.
it is
Integrated education.
integrated educational training, which is what it is at the federal level. ICAPS is just what we call it in the state of Illinois. I won't go into what it means. It is about taking someone who either has just completed high school diploma or the equivalency, or has not completed it. And we work with them so they can gain the skills to go out to the workforce, if they're may already be working, but to get them some additional skills while also working on their GED or their high school equivalency. So being able to help them get a skill and get their education at the same time.
Good, great. Thank you.
I'm going to kind of speak on Perkins at Lakeland and EFES. The annual 8th grade career conference is back on. There was an in-person hiatus for the last 2 years. It was happening, but virtually. So now it's taking on the format it did prior to the pandemic. And because I'm the business service representative, I have volunteered to help out in recruiting businesses, what we call career presenters, to attend the 8th grade career conference to be able to present a variety of different occupations and careers to those 8th graders. So in years past, we've had over 2,000 8th graders go to Lakeland College to the field house, and we've had over 80 tables of careers and occupations represented. So those 8th graders not only get to hear a riveting speech on why getting a job is important, but then they also get to go around in a kind of like a career fair style and visit different tables from all 16 different career clusters, representation from each one, just a variety of really cool and interesting occupations. They ask questions, or supposed to ask questions about what do you do? What's your job like? What kind of education did you have to get here? What is pay like? that kind of thing. So almost like a reverse interview style. It's really cool. When I was the Perkins specialist at Lakeland, that was one of my responsibilities, and it's a big event, so it was hard, but it was so cool once the day of came and there's just hundreds of eighth graders running around learning about careers. Super cool, super cool. So if you know of any businesses in the area or any just employers who want to showcase their occupations, their jobs that are available, and kind of get that first touch to that future talent pool and kind of create that talent pipeline, please send them my way. I'll help them get registered for the event. It's March 30th and 31st. There's 2 sessions each day, so 4 sessions where about 6 to 9 middle schools attend each session. It's really cool. Perkins says feed them as well, so it is a volunteer your time type of thing, but I make sure that they eat good too. So send them my way if you know of any. I think I got it posted to our LWIA 23 social media, so feel free to share those posts or just make the connection.
And did you mention a date? Has it been said?
March 30th and 31st, 2023.
Did they do the one in October that we usually do with seniors?
The
Yes.
career day, yes. And then Courtney, you guys did business and construction expo.
Trades Expo in September.
Okay, and was that for 8th graders or for high
That's
schoolers?
for high schoolers. Yep, we did that one at the airport.
That one used to take place at Lakeland, but it's grown so much that we couldn't
It's
accommodate it
almost-
anymore.
I mean, stuff.
Really? Awesome.
I mean, yeah, we went bigger and better this year, and I kind of stressed when they said, I've got a semi delivering big equipment, and I'm like, what? And I asked Laura, I'm like, have you ever had this? And she's like, no. I could see the stress in her face. I delivering equipment. So, but I mean, the kids loved it and it went very well. So the only complaints, of course, that we got was the kids, of course, wanted more time at each station because it was very hands-on. So I wish we could give them more time. I just don't know with busing and, all of that. So.
And it was a plus
Mhm.
and that was a career day. Actually.
It is the Construction Trades Expo, so it's got all the unions, the welders, and
Is that for the district?
I think years ago it may have started at Eastern. Yeah, no, and I think it outgrew there.
Then we went to West Building.
Yeah, the only thing is that at the airport, I literally prayed for good weather. Because if we don't have good weather, I don't know what the plan is, so. But we had a great day.
I feel like it was September, October.
Yeah, I know it was September this year, and I don't know if it's always been in September.
Around-ish,
Yeah.
maybe.
Late September usually.
I only went to 1 or 2 maybe while it was still at Lakeland.
But the kids love it. I mean,
I liked it. It was cool.
Yeah,
I learned stuff.
this year we had a phenomenal turnout. We had teachers emailing me the day of with schools wanting to come. And I'm like, we can't fit anymore. And then unfortunately, I guess there's a huge homeschool group in Effingham that anytime we post anything to social media, I get phone calls. And most of them are very nice, and then there's always that one that is not nice. But we unfortunately have to serve our schools first. And there was no way to add that homeschool group. So if for some reason we ever have low numbers, they of course can attend, but we have to serve our schools first.
Okay.
So
I didn't realize that. I mean,
I didn't either, so I just got to talking to the mom and I had no idea. So, because I was like, now how are we talking? And yeah, Effingham has a huge group. So 'cause I was like, oh, it's 20. Absolutely. So,
Something about that is that IECC, that there's in the general area, there's quite a bit of homes.
yeah,
So and it's a growing trend.
Yeah.
So we have separated, this is before I came on board.
Yeah.
The recruiters, which everything rolls down to, of course, right? So the recruiters and the advisors get to have so much of the interaction with the homeschool group and of course the guidance counselors. And then we saw that there was enough space to do separate. Because there was as much interest as there was about it from the homeschooler. So that's a pretty large number. It'll sneak up on you how many
Yeah.
kids are being homeschooled.
well, next year, I'm hoping to do a night, like an open to the public night at the airport, as long as we can get it cleared with the airport. And letting kids who are interested, because like I said, they don't have enough time to go to all of the stations because we had so many. So if they truly are interested, bringing their parents back, then they can get information and their parents can also talk and whatnot. Homeschool children can come in. And
The Christian schools fall with the homeschool.
we are able to include them. I don't-
Yeah, because St. John's comes every year.
Do they?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if they do.
Well, that would be 8th grade career day now.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for
yeah, so
Lakeland they
for-
do. I'm trying to think of St. Anthony came. I think I know St. Anthony came to Construction Trades
Okay.
Expo because she called. But I don't know if she was originally on our list. But. You know, I'd have to look. There were so many schools. It was my first year, so I just started in July. So. It's a lot to take in. So, yeah, I mean, it was a huge, I mean, I came down here by myself because Laura was gone. Because they had to change the date to talk to the trades guys. I was by myself. I had no idea what I was talking about because I know nothing about this kind of stuff. And
Just throw you in the fire. Mhm.
so
Eat to the fire.
I don't know, I said something and I was like, I'm just gonna be honest, I don't know anything about this stuff, but I'm gonna learn. So I made a blog and that was it. So, but we went on CI Living and
Yeah,
drug one of
remember
the
that.
guys with us and so,
Very cool.
yeah, so it was great.
And then maybe do it on two. Yes. Instruction people in the exercise, 2 days.
We do it 2 days. But honestly, I feel like we could do it 3 days. But yeah, but it's hard to get those to commit to 3 days. Yeah, so it's hard to even get them to commit. I mean, because we had some that had to leave early because they had to pick up kids from school. And so some of them are driving, an hour and a half, 2 hours. One guy was driving from down by St. Louis. So but we were just appreciative of it. So, yeah. But yeah, it was a good turnout, so I was happy with it. So I'm hoping that this can be bigger and better.
Even better.
I keep
yes.
throwing ideas.
I love the idea of doing it. Because I think that it exposes adults who maybe don't have the means to go
Yes.
during the day. That they can come in the evening or like to talk about kids bringing their parents.
Yes.
And just exposing their parents to what are some of the great opportunities in our own community, like. Why are we letting all these youth go?
Yeah, well, Larry, like in our office, he had no idea about some of this stuff. He was like, "Look, did you know you can really make this much money?" And I'm like, yeah. I said, and I only know that because one of my best friends, her husband is a pipe fitter. And he was like, holy cow, I can talk to my son about this, and he was like, wow, he couldn't believe it. I said, it's a good job. It's a really good job. So, but, and I mean, for some of these youth, I mean, it's, Lyft is talking with some of these guys to get some of these programs going at Lyft. So, I mean, if they like working with their hands, that's a good program.
We have 10 welders that completed, and a lot of them are working through union halls. We've got 18-year-old kids making $44 an
Yeah.
hour.
I mean,
It's amazing.
That the kids that went down to Missouri.
good jobs, full insurance. I mean,
Any other partner reports?
I will on the Title I side. We are preparing for spring semester at area colleges. Due to expenditures and enrollment levels, we are not going to be enrolling any new customers spring semester. If we do have anyone coming in, they're going, we have waiting lists in all the offices. And so, that money comes up a little bit, we will prioritize those folks, making new enrollments probably for summer semester, so. Everything's going well.
Partner reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business, new business. Any old business or new business anyone would like to bring up? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. Nate, public comment? Going once, going twice on public comment? Our next meeting will be March 20th, 2023, 4 p.m. at the CEFS office. Lori promises me she'll have a coffee bar ready for us. And the new remodel, so I can't wait to see it. It'll be exciting to see the new building. So next meeting, March 20th, 2023, 4 p.m. I would entertain any motion to adjourn.
Carol, so moved.
Gerald? Maria, second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 4:51.
Thank you all so much for joining. We'll see you at 5:30 for dinner. 5:30 for dinner and then board meeting at 6.